Okay, this is the regular monthly meeting of the Woodbridge Board of Finance for Thursday, September 19th, 2013. And the first item on our agenda is public comments, and I don't believe anybody's here to make public comments. So next we'll have the Director of Administration and Finance report. Tony?
Thank you. Actually, I have 2 monthly reports, one for the fiscal year end of 2013 and one for the 2014. So the for fiscal year 2013 preliminary year-end report is a actual shortfall of $299, about $300,000. But that's keep in mind we had a $400,000 reserved for from fund balance. So actually, from a budget perspective, we had a $100,000 surplus. So we had a $100,000 budgetary surplus, but because we, in our budget process, we reserved $400,000 to balance the budget, that means that essentially we had a cash shortfall of $300,000. Just so everyone's clear on the math there. Some of our variances that are sort of notable. One is property taxes, which is a surplus of about $170,000. We had some large back tax collections come in this year. The intergovernmental revenue is pretty much on budget, a slight shortfall there. There were just some minor reductions to some state grants that we had. The big item is, of course, a charge for services, which is a deficit of about $477,000. And that includes a shortfall of golf revenues of $507,000. So there were some surpluses in transfer station fees and building permits and a few other accounts, which helped to offset that a little. But that was our major revenue shortfall for the town. Interest income was lower than anticipated. We had a shortfall in interest income of about $23,000. And our expenses, the Country Club of Woodbridge, there was a surplus in expenses of $68,000, almost $69,000. So if you combine the $69,000 surplus in expenses and the shortfall in revenue for the Country Club, that's where you get your $420 or so $1,000 shortfall for the operation. Police Department is a surplus of about $40,000 due to a vacant position primarily, which contributed to that. Waste Management is a surplus of about $63,000, primarily due to reduced tonnage in bulky waste and MSW, which is municipal solid waste and recycling. It was less than we had budgeted for. Human Services is a $21,000 surplus, primarily due to some vacant part-time positions that they would then fill, but there was some timing issues there, so they had some surpluses there. Similarly with Recreation, surplus of about $20,000, again due to some surpluses in part-time wages. The Board of Education is reporting its year-end surplus of $45,000 in its latest year-end report for June 30th, and in Amity it was a surplus of $85,000. So if you combine all those, that's where we arrive at our budgetary surplus of $100,000 or shortfall in actual dollars of $300,000. Any questions or?
Okay. And in the current year?
The current year, we have a report through August, and there's a few things I want to bring to your attention. We received a little more from the state in our revenue sharing grant that we had budgeted for, so there is a $14,000 surplus so far in intergovernmental revenue. Because of that, we had received $41,000 and we budgeted $27,000. So that was a surplus that we have in revenues. And in expenses, we have in employee benefits, we have a shortfall and about $50,000 in workers' compensation due to largely two factors. The first is that our bids came in higher than we had anticipated by about $24,000. There's really a limited market for municipal workers' compensation. I think we received two bids. Second, our assessment to Myrma, which you will, some of the existing members will remember, is our former self-insured risk pool that we had a responsibility, a liability for. Our last payment came in about $26,000 higher than we had budgeted. I am hopeful, and I believe that is our last payment. And we have an annual meeting of that board in December, which they're going to present their financials for the previous year and their projections for contributions, if any, going forward. But we hope there are none. With some workers' compensation cases, they have a long life to them. So sometimes something may come up that may generate an expense, but at this point, we're hopeful that there is none for next year. So additionally, however, it looks like we're going to have a surplus in healthcare of about $80,000, largely due to some changes in coverage, and which were positive for us, and slightly lower rates than we had budgeted. So ultimately, we have a surplus in benefits, but those are the two factors that lead to that. That's pretty much it for the new year so far.
Okay. Any questions on the current year?
Well, not in the current year, but I think we have to say something about the $507,000. It's one of the largest losses departmentally we've had as long as I've been sitting on the board. And I just want our taxpayers to know that we're on top of this. First off, let's put a program in effect, analyze the situation from a financial point of view. At this point in time, the board are looking at options at this. So we're not going to allow this to continue. So it's not like we're sleeping the switch here.
Absolutely.
I just want to slide over that. It's too big to slide over.
Yep.
And that's it.
Okay. Status of the 13 budget, Tony? Audit?
I'm just finishing up our final journal entries, and I hope that to be completed with that in probably by early next week. And then our auditors are out doing their final field work. I think it's the first week in October. So they'll be here for 2 weeks and a week at the Board of Education. And then we hope to have a draft of our report, I think mid-November. So we're moving along as on schedule.
And we have a copy of the adopted budget document here,
Right.
which is just,
That's just for your,
Yep.
right, your records, right.
and we also have a report here for the month of July, I guess, on the
Right.
Country Club.
So the Country Club, we thought it would be helpful to just provide you with monthly financials, and I know there was some discussion of that at your last meeting. So just to sort of review the July financials, for the month, there was a shortfall of $50,000. You can see it's on the first page is the balance sheet, which shows you all the assets and liabilities of the operation. And you can see the handy spot where it says stockholders' equity, and that's the operation to date. So it has retained earnings, which is essentially losses. In this case, it's a credit, so it's previous to July 1. And then there's a you can see the $50,000 loss there, so it gives you the total $685. That's a nice sort of easy reference for the year to, since the inception of this operation. And then and it gives you all of the sort of the aspects of the operation in terms of liabilities, payables, inventory, cash on hand.
Do you have any preliminary numbers for August by chance?
August, there should be, I thought they would be here today. It might be in tomorrow, I believe. Do you know if would you happen to, let's see, on the commission now. I think there's actually a surplus in August,
That'd be nice.
but I'm not sure of the amount.
Okay.
Do you know?
As I recall, they may not have met their projection, but below projection, but
But then there was a
positive
surplus,
numbers,
correct, yeah.
We collected
I
more than we
believe
spent.
so.
Correct, exactly, we
Which
collected
would
more than we
reduce
spent.
this 50, and again, as Andy said,
Right.
this ain't gonna continue.
Well, I guess my question is, are they signing memberships for next year at this point in time?
Not yet, no. And you can see on the,
There's a meeting Monday night on this?
Monday, yeah. On the income statement, the issue here continues to be the revenue, where, you know, the budget and the actual, I mean, that was a cash loss. The budget variance is actually $80,000. You can see that's the third column over. So, and 62 of it is revenue. So you can see the issue continues to be revenue losses.
Have they experienced anything like this at any of their other venues that they operate?
That is my understanding, that all their other venues are experiencing similar issues.
I think one of the issues is that it was a very bad year for golf. It was extraordinary weather circumstances, but it's particularly difficult when it hits you in your first year of operation, which for them it was here. But that was not the only reason for the shortfalls.
Just highlights the risk that's involved in this type of operation.
Exactly right. You know, there's no guarantee. I mean, you know, they could put their plan for next year basically is almost slight profit to break even. I mean,
Right.
They showed minimal.
That's
cash
correct,
flow.
yeah.
And all it really takes is bad weather. And it's not only rain, it's heat. Those two things come into play. So, I mean, you know, you're really running a business with all the risks of running a business. So, you know, and the question, that's the real issue here. So there's no guarantee next year you can't have the same thing. Depends on what, you know, if somebody wants to, if the almanac is good and God is on your side, then maybe. But this is what you're dependent on. You're depending on weather being good. And even with that, and with the revenue, they're based on the cost per round that they're down to, what they're paying per round, the revenue stream has been diminished. Also because they're just not getting as much as they usually get per round of golf. So there's a lot of factors.
There's
And
a lot
nobody
of-
else is doing any better.
That's
And all
true.
the golf courses in the state and all the golf courses around the country are experiencing the same.
And all the country clubs around here, I've heard.
And all the country clubs that
They're all looking for members, actively looking for members.
are in
Clubs
tough
that
financial-
you or I probably need not even apply to are sending out, I tell a funny story. My wife gets a brochure from New Haven Country Club.
Exactly right.
Asking her to
That
join. My wife wouldn't know a golf ball from a basketball. I mean, she never hit a golf ball in her life, and they're asking her to join New Haven Country Club, so.
Well, that's not the only, the fact that you got an invitation to join.
Exactly, New Haven Country Club, exactly.
That's the real issue.
Exactly.
That shows how bad it is.
And it goes, I heard the farms, I don't know how true it is, I heard the farms is in big jeopardy. The farms country,
all
I
are.
heard they're in big trouble. And so, I mean, you know, we went from around here, you had Orange Hills as a public course, and Great River, which is way out, it's relatively new. Now we've got Oak Lane, we've got Woodbridge, I mean, there's just an abundance of places to play. And people aren't playing as much because, you know, even with this, it's an investment in time and money, so it's just not a good time for the golf course business, so.
So, Matt, part of my first selectmen's report is
Yeah.
about the country club. Maybe I should just jump into that
Sure,
part
go
now.
ahead, sure.
Certainly, this is a top priority for the Board of Selectmen. We're very concerned about the financial situation at the club and what is the proper and best use of this property going forward. And one of the issues, I think, that's been identified as a problem in the past about looking at options for the country club property was a lack of public participation and public information. So we will be having community conversations and public input. It's scheduled for October 2nd and October 15th. At 7 o'clock in the evening, there'll be two public informational and discussion opportunities. I've appointed an ad hoc committee that will be running these meetings, so nobody will be intimidated by being before the Board of Selectmen. It's an established protocol for having community conversations so people can sit together and talk about their ideas. It'll be a format where no idea is a bad idea, and we can get everything out on the table as we think about what to do next. And I think it's really important that the public participate in this bring their questions and their ideas so that we can take that into account as we determine next steps. And certainly, financial viability is critically important. We clearly can't afford to keep the country club in this condition. There's no one right answer, I'm sure, and I think there are people in town with good ideas, and we want them all on the table as we take decisive and quick steps following that. So I hope everybody will turn out for that. Just one night or the other, there'll be identical evenings, but that we wanted to have it on 2 different evenings. So again, it's October 2nd and October 15th, and we'll do a very intensive public information campaign before then to be sure people know about it and will turn out for it.
And is it going to be at the country club?
No, it's going to be in the center, at the center gym. Yep.
I did have one question going back to just the July income statement.
Sure.
And, well, obviously the biggest problem is the revenue. The labor costs, though, are much greater by almost $20,000 than what the budget had been.
Right.
Is there an explanation for that? And if not, then that's okay.
There is,
but-
I'm not recalling the exact,
And this is only 1 month, so, I mean, there may be some abnormalities associated with
we could certainly
this,
find
but-
that out for you and get back to you on that, absolutely.
Because basically with the payroll taxes and the, insurance, it's, it's $21,000 over what they had originally budgeted.
And
if our, revenue is down because there aren't enough people there, I don't understand why our payroll would be above what was budgeted, unless there were some assumptions that were off in terms of.
Sure.
It's a good question.
Yep.
And a lot of it was in food and beverage and the amenities.
Well,
The
I think
pool.
they have to staff the pool. The
Yeah.
pool, they bring it, for a short term, bring a lot of people, and they need a lot of people. They overstaff, and they have to overstaff in that area in the summertime, so that's part of the problem.
Anyway, Ellen, I think it's great that you're going to have these community conversations. I think that'll be really important. And we may get some very creative ideas in terms of
Absolutely. I hope so.
how to view this and
Mhm.
take this in a different direction.
Well, I think, without question, if people are open-minded about this and look at it as what can we do to benefit the town, we can make this a very, very positive thing. We can't, but people have to be willing to adjust their feelings about that property.
Correct.
Anyone who thinks that it can just remain the way it is, it's not going to happen. I think we've learned that the hard way, and Andy's certainly kept us apprised of that. It can't stay as just a golf course. It's not. It just can't. As we said when we bought this, we're going to have to run this for a while till we get our bearings and see where we're at, and that's exactly what we've done. But now and I want to certainly step right into it from day one. And she's realized that she's getting an education in a hurry. But there's not a question in my mind. I said this to Ellen. This property can still be a very big positive for the town if people will be open-minded about it. If not, it's not going to continue. Obviously, it's not going to continue to be just a golf course. It can't.
Can it?
So, more to come, and I think, and I'm hoping these meetings are positive conversations, ideas, and not criticisms. Because criticisms aren't going to help us at all. We need people to come forth with ideas as to what they think. And it could be as simple as, let's just sell it with an easement, we'll get the money and we'll pay the bond off and we won't have any problems anymore. And if there's somebody out there who's willing to buy the property, but that's not going to work. It's not worth anything.
They're not gonna buy it for what we pay
No,
for it.
no.
What we have into it, that's the problem. I mean, somebody probably buy it.
And they now see a track record of a professional outfit handling this, so I don't see how you can make money there paying that kind of money. Okay, so a lot more to come, and I hope people who are watching, it's October 2nd,
October 2nd and October 15th, so either one.
open
So,
forums.
yeah.
Please come and
I'm a listener.
Yeah.
me too.
Andy
Me too. That's right,
Andy is actually
you're
on
an
the
ad hoc.
committee.
And I've been told.
You're an ad hoc. Okay, Woodbridge Board of Education, this is in August. I'm sure you're going to cover this, Sandy, somewhat?
Yes, I will.
Looks like there's a small
Small
okay,
surplus.
small surplus.
Yeah.
Okay, proposed budget schedule, and
And the budget schedule, if there's anybody has any comments or conflicts.
so it looks like, the meeting dates, according to this, will be, the joint meetings will be Thursday, January 23rd, Tuesday, January 28th, Thursday, January 30th, and Friday if needed. And last year, I don't think we needed it, did we, that fourth? Right.
Capital.
Capital, we have two.
And then capital,
Yeah,
right.
December 3rd and December 5th.
Right. Okay, so this is pretty much in line with what we've had in the past. Okay. Next, our funding requests. I think we have two. The first one, I think we've talked about this. Let me get the original here. Is the fire department. And there were some hose that failed, I think we talked about this. And so they're looking for $15,200 to replace this hose, and of course, you can't have a fire department without hose. So I'll move acceptance of request for funding 1314-04 in the amount of $15,200.
Second.
Any discussion? Does anybody want Sean to address this, or you pretty much understand the? You okay, or you want to hear?
As long as he's here,
The hose was
make a
tested and
comment.
failed, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Has to be replaced, can't be.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, fire hose is hard to budget for. So what we don't want to do is start replacing hose, just to replace hose. What we usually want to do is have some money in the budget, so when hose fails each year, we replace it as it comes up. But this year we had quite a bit of hose that failed. The hose that failed is 17 years old. Usually NFPA allows you to have the shelf life of 10 years on your fire hose, and then you have to replace it. As long as you test it annually every year and it passes, we continue to use it. So rather than take 10-year-old hose, which is perfectly fine, and throw it out and buy hose, we try to get the most longevity out of our hose, which right now we're about 17 years. I mean, we even had hose that just recently failed that was from 89, so it hung in there for quite some time. So rather than keep replacing it, and we're going to be putting it back in our budget because we depleted it, but it's a good process to go with. The only downside of it is you just never know when you're going to have a lot fail. Usually we have about 8 to 10 lengths fail a year. This year we had a lot more just because the age of the hose was a lot older. So, but over time we actually were ahead of the game. So we didn't anticipate having all that hose fail this year.
What was the total amount? Was the total amount 49,000 or was the total amount 15,000?
The total, what we did is we had a lot of 1 3/4 and 2.5 inch hose fail, hand lines fail. Over the past couple of years, we had money in our budget to replace those, and we were going to replace those as soon as we did this. But we also had a lot of LDH fail, over 2,000 feet of LDH. That's the large diameter hose, the 5-inch hose that we lay down on the street. It's like basically as a portable water main. That's what failed a lot this year. So we had well over 2,000 feet of that fail, and that hose was from '95. So that hose is roughly 17 years old. And also, we also had a busy 2 years. We had quite a bit of fires in the last 2 years. We also had a lot of calls, a lot of training, so the hose got a lot more use on it in the last 2 years. So that also does a lot to it.
Anything else? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
And secondly, there's a line item transfer of 131405, $2,340, and the description is to transfer revenue received from application fees to the zoning, town plan and zoning, to pay for consultant fees, and again, there's a memo.
Yeah, this is something we do every once in a while, and it's essentially when the consultant is needed for, in this case, TPZ, the applicant pays the fees, so you have to then transfer those fees to cover the expenditure of hiring the consultant. It's essentially authorizing the expenditure for those fees are for. It's more of a sort of a bookkeeping thing, but
Okay.
we have to increase the expenditure.
It's an exchange of funds.
Right.
Okay, any questions on that? Did I didn't make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve line item transfer 131405, the amount of $2,340.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. And that is that. Approval of minutes. Okay. These are the minutes of our regular monthly meeting on July 25th, and I will move acceptance of the minutes of the July 25th meeting as presented.
Second.
Any adjustments, corrections, etc.? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. First Selectmen's report, anything else, Ellen?
Yes, a couple of things. The Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to accept the bid on the Merritt Avenue Bridge work, so that will be going forward. It's been a long time in the works, like so many other things, so that was very good news on Merritt Avenue. Also, I was authorized at the last meeting to sign an agreement with an entity called ProAct, which will enable town residents to get prescription cards that will enable them to receive very significant discounts on pharmaceuticals and some other products. It's a free card. There's no cost to the town. There's no cost to the residents. So as soon as that's completed, I will definitely let everyone know. It's a really good program. Through CCM has been bringing it around to the towns, and we'll be doing that. And I do want to remind everyone that this Saturday from 9 to 12 is shredding day at the transfer station. It's not for businesses, but for home shredding, so you can bring a couple of boxes, and there'll be shredders there, so.
Okay.
That's our big news.
Thank you. Okay, liaison reports. Amity, nothing earth-shattering. Mike Nast, of course, is our interim superintendent and seems to be moving along well. I don't know that there'll be a whole lot of new initiatives, but as it regards the search for a new superintendent, they have decided to hire an entirely new firm to do it. Okay, I was looking through them. There was we approved some money to hire, like $15,000 to hire a new firm to, I have a feeling Mike Nass might have been the person who suggested this firm. So they are in the process of hopefully getting some new people to apply for the job. And in the meantime, things are going well. In the current year's budget, as of August 31st, there's about a $230,000 surplus, which will change drastically between now and the end of the year. So nothing, there's really nothing from a budgetary standpoint at this point going on. And for those of you who'd like to know, John Brady is having a wonderful retirement. He is currently touring Europe and with a bunch of his friends from Cape Cod, and I guess he's going to be up there for 4 or 5 weeks, and then he's going to stay on his own for another 2 weeks. So he's enjoying his retirement, doing well. He wants to come back. I can't remember. He wants to come back for some dedication. I can't think of what it was. He'll be back at some point. So he's doing well, and I know you all wish him well. So okay, Mike, you have anything? Yes.
I just have a question
Yeah.
about Amity. Has there been any talk about any increase in enrollment there?
No.
Okay.
Oh, that's the other thing I did want to mention. It's this coming Tuesday is the referendum for the turf field. So the polls will be open from 6 in the morning till 8 at night. And doesn't seem to be much going on about it, so we'll see how many people get out and vote. But it is this coming Tuesday.
And what is the cost again?
The bond is, well, there's two parts to it. The bond is about $1 million, so it's a 20-year bond, $50,000 a year plus interest. But the more, and there's a couple of letters, there's two issues from what I can gather about this. One is the people who live up here are now complaining that the additional use of this field with the lights and the speakers and the sound system is going to negatively impact their quality of life. Because right now there's 5 football games a year at night that they have to deal with. And if this field is built and there's a lot of night events, it's going to have an effect on their quality of life. And the other is that you don't just put this field in and forget about it. You have to put aside, it's about a 10, 12-year life on the turf, and to replace it's about $1 million. So you've got to put about $80,000 a year away to be prepared for the resurfacing when that comes. So it's not just spend the money, put the field up, and that's the end of it, so. Those are the two areas I think people are not happy with, so. But we'll see. Tuesday, like I said, it hasn't been a whole lot of publicity, so
Right.
we'll see how many people get out and vote.
Just the signs.
Yeah, a few signs.
Right.
So, okay, you have anything, Mike?
Fire Commission met on September 9th. Big issue was the discussion of the replacement of the fire hose that Chief Rowland spoke about. There was also some discussion about, you're going to hate to hear this, more bubbles resurfacing on the bay floor. And these are larger. It's not quite clear why it's happening now. Has there been some discussion with you about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We finally had an issue finished.
Right, yeah.
And then-
It just resurfaced. And then the other thing coming up is they're planning for this thing called Truck or Treat for Halloween. Will basically be a block party sponsored by the fire department here in this area. So,
So let's hope that takes place, because the last two Halloweens haven't.
yeah, that's right.
My granddaughter is constantly asking if there's gonna be a Halloween this year. So. Karen, you have anything?
Yes, EMS, the response to emergency calls by AMR continues to be above the standards for compliance. And in their the commission was analyzing calls, and in their analysis, the commission identified the majority of the calls were related to falls. And they researched falls as they related to older adults and the effect it has on the quality of life of the individual, as well as the effect on the community. They've been in contact with the CDC and found that they have informational brochures. And AMR offered to perform free home safety inspections to residents, as well as distributing the materials. And the commission also, I don't know if they've contacted you, but the commission also suggested reaching out to the town insurance provider for risk assessment at the town buildings, especially with the library and the senior center. Human services?
Sure.
Yeah, keep it going. A new sound system is being installed at the senior center. And Ben O'Connor, a member of Troop 63, has been working on an Eagle Scout project to organize 50 emergency baths for seniors and disabled residents who may need assistance during an emergency. And he should be handing those out next month. The fire alarm was activated during the summer. I believe it was a busy time. Well, there were quite a few programs going on. And although it was a false alarm, it identified the need for means of evacuation for physically disabled residents. So the director has reached out to the fire marshal and the chief to review an emergency evacuation plan. Current programs are reflecting a need of our changing community, and participants are looking for more active programming. So Zumba Gold is starting, as well as book club and walking group. The holiday fair on November 2nd will include a health fair this year. And the fall after-school programs are starting this week with a photography and a cooking class.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Esposito? No?
No, I
Oh.
did not attend the
Okay.
this commission's meeting, but I did attend the golf. It was very well received when I first visit back.
We'd like to have you there.
And it was a 2-hour meeting. And basically, again, the talk was about deficit budgets, and talk was about the fact that they thought they might make a profit in August. And there was a lot, again, a lot of talk about marketing plans, et cetera, et cetera. One of the issues that came up was this issue of memberships, where, you know, that they asked if the town was going to guarantee any memberships that were sold. And I said that I don't think that's appropriate, that we're not going to guarantee any memberships that were sold. So, you know, I think that's a question for Tony and the town and the Board of Finance. But, you know, I thought that was an issue that should be addressed.
Andy,
And that was basically it.
they have been informed that they have to segregate membership
Correct.
funds, and
Yeah.
that's their responsibility.
I mean, that's it.
Correct,
They have
yeah.
to, yes, set up a reserve.
Correct, exactly, yeah.
Well,
Can't spend it.
what would they do if they sold memberships for next year and got money for them? No, they wouldn't put that in income, would they?
They don't recognize it as income, but they use the cash.
They use the cash.
Oh,
They would use the cash, were using
They
the
would have
cash.
used the
Would.
cash,
Would.
but they're not
Can't
told
use the
they
cash.
They
can't
can't do
use the
that.
cash.
no.
They would still just set up an accrual for the revenue, but
Oh, okay.
it would be, they'd use
So-
the cash, so.
So we're not gonna allow that. And that's all I have to read.
So now you're not on the commission, but you're on the ad hoc committee.
That's
Right?
correct.
I'm on the listening committee.
Right, so you're going, in other words, you're attending out of loyalty to the town, these meetings.
No,
Well,
Andy's
on
the
ad hoc
lead.
committee?
No, I'm talking about the golf commission meetings like this.
Well, I am the Board of Finance.
Liaison.
Representative.
liaison.
Oh,
Liaison.
okay, so you're attending as lead, oh, I got
I'm
you.
trying to get the
I'm
liaison.
sorry, okay. So you're still.
My role is to listen and report back.
Okay, I get you.
Support.
I had a little lapse. Okay.
I've been asked to do a lot of listening.
So you're on the ad hoc committee and you're a liaison, so okay, good. You have a good person involved. Anyway. Sandy?
The Library Commission met on Monday, September 9th, and they were very pleased to report that more than 500 kids attended programs just in the month of August. So, I mean, it just really shows how vibrant and vital our library is. And they gave out over 200 reading logs for kids to kind of participate over the summertime. So we felt that was really, it's working very well. The carpet is finally done. It's been replaced. And I think as I reported last time, they decided to give the carpet, the company did, to Habitat for Humanity to put it into some homes to make good use of it. So we're very thankful not to continue to hear about that. One very interesting development is that Todd attended the ALA, the American Library Association conference. And there was a decision made by that group that libraries were going to be the hub for the Affordable Care Act. And which means that they want librarians and staff to become aware of programs that are going to be available to the public. And I think the way this is being interpreted is that it's not as if the library staff are going to offer advice, but they will be able to learn enough about the resources out there to be able to help residents find, explore what those options are for them. So the staff will be going to training by programs being given in Connecticut. So,
That's interesting.
yeah. Lion has actually added Bethany to their group, so people are very happy about that. They're still kind of negotiating with Hampton, but they really would like Hampton to also be part of Lion. And apparently the Hampton Library is really on parallel with Wallingford and Middletown in terms of the size, and it would just kind of help round out the membership and then the redistribution of dues that Hampton would join. And Todd is actively involved in that. Todd distributed his director goals for the year, and I think it's just great that he puts that much thought into it and really presents that to the commission. And so then there's a way to basically monitor the progress of what's going on in the library overall. There were some part-time people who were hired, and the other major focus right now is the HVAC, and they're working with Sylvia Petrocelli
Right.
in terms of trying to get identification of some options to fix the humidity problem.
Stay tuned in the capital budget. I'm
Yeah.
feeling it'll be.
Right. And as you can imagine, humidity would be key to preserving the library's collections, not only of books, but CDs and other articles that they have. And there is a significant issue.
Last year, nothing happened.
No. And part of the problem is that no one can actually guarantee that what they're recommending will work. So part of the issue, and I think this is why it's good to get Silver Petrocelli involved
Right.
at this point, is that we need to know if we're going to have to spend money that it is actually going to solve human error.
Correct.
And it's pockets. It's not like it's the whole library. So it's quite complicated to really figure out what's causing this and what do they need to do to fix it. So, I mean, that will be vetted, and I know that you've been involved
Right.
in that also.
Yes.
So that is really an area of emphasis. for
Funny, that
now.
sounds like a John Rice. I mean, I'm serious.
It is,
It
actually.
sounds like
That's
a
true.
project that somebody like his company, I mean, you need a company like that to.
Yeah, it's a pretty complicated
It's,
problem.
I mean, especially
It
if
is.
it needs to be looked at.
Yep, agreed.
Somebody like that, not necessarily him.
All right. And on that same evening, the Woodbridge Board of Education Finance Committee met. And of most interest is the fact that 80 children were projected for attendance in kindergarten for this year. The number is 117. So it really shows you that the turnover in housing and the influx of new families is really real in the town. And so there were some changes in terms of their personnel. This is almost 40 more children than what they had anticipated. So they did actually have to add a teacher and a teaching assistant. And they did take over the lunchroom that was used by the teachers. The teachers actually suggested this because they needed additional classroom space. One teacher did move to administration, and given all the state mandates, they thought that would be a good use of this individual's time. A couple of people did leave: a psychologist, a special ed resource teacher, and a math resources person. And they have replaced these individuals, but they're not as high up on the salary scale. So that gave them some reductions. And they're still looking for the math resources person. But that's resulted in a savings for staff of about $32,000. So you can see overall, they have a positive projection of $15,000, but they're watching this very closely. They are almost finished with the asphalt for the north playground, which will complete all their exterior work. And they've had really great feedback on all of the improvements to the cafeteria in terms of the acoustics. Even the kids have commented in addition to the adults. So they're pleased with that. So overall, there are 770 students now in the school, again, which is counter to the demographic projections that were made for them. So this is kind of a stay tuned, and I think many of us have kind of seen over the last 20 odd years where our kids were in school when there were 1,000 students, and now we're in the age bracket where it's like, gee, do I really need this big house anymore? And it gets turned over, and new families are coming in. So I think we're really starting to see that cycle.
I think the other issue there too, Sandy, is that housing in our town is more affordable than it's
Now.
ever been in the last
Yes.
20 years.
I think you're
So I
right.
think the fact that it's more affordable, younger families,
Right.
couples with families,
True.
could buy housing now in our town, and they're moving in, they're buying houses and moving in with young families.
Yeah.
And that certainly, there are a lot of houses for sale in our town that are just really affordable. The prices are, you wouldn't believe what some of these houses are selling.
I have a friend whose mother lived in a house over by the Country Club. She passed away. She was living there, well, she had her daughters helping her. She passed away. It's a small ranch, sold for $259. 3 kids. 3 kids. And they came from West Haven, and they came for one reason.
Yeah, the schools.
Cool. And $259 is a very, very low entree price.
Right, it's a nice little house, but it's got 3 bedrooms. Yeah, so 3 kids. And there's a lot of that going on. The house right across the street sold, and I'm assuming it was a young couple that bought it. It's a little bigger house, but I'm assuming there's kids there too, and that's what you're finding.
Right.
I don't think people like me or Andy are moving into Woodbridge. If we're here, we're here. But we're not moving into Woodbridge and buying 4-bedroom homes, right? We gotta keep Andy happy, he's got a lot of bedrooms.
Yeah. Okay. On the other interesting thing is that there are 10 sets of twins in the kindergarten class.
10 sets of
10
twins?
sets of twins.
a lot.
Really? Wow.
Yes. So it's like all these interesting things.
That's
going
What do they do?
on.
Do they keep Do they keep them in the same class?
I
Do you
think
know?
I think it has to do with what the parents.
What the parents want?
Yeah.
Isn't
that amazing?
Crazy.
Yeah, and you're right, exactly. And I'll just mention one other thing about the boilers, because there was a lot of discussion about this, and even though we had our presentation the other day, this is quite a serious issue for them. And one of their boilers is really no longer operational at all. It's leaking, and there are no replacement parts for it whatsoever. So something is going to have to be done.
Yeah, we have our
It's being
expert-
addressed.
Our expert looked at it.
Yes.
And it's being addressed, boilers, the boilers are gonna be replaced. It's being addressed right now. So it's,
Right, but they will have to come to us for funding.
Oh, yeah, correct.
For that.
Well, they're gonna have to come to
It'll
us
be
for funding,
anywhere
but-
from like 190 to, 250 in
Whatever.
terms of.
And they're gonna, and I guess they're gonna replace them, keeping in mind the overall project that's underway. That these will be able to be.
Correct.
it'll be the same boilers. The
Right.
boilers will be,
Right,
the plan will have to fit into the ski, that's the,
exactly.
So the
right.
boilers will be
But that's going to be coming to us
Yep.
for review and approval.
we're ready for it.
And I will also just say that the Extended Day Program has done a really wonderful job of turning around their finances, and they should really be commended for that. They made changes last year in terms of their staffing to what the need was, and at this point, they are basically at a break-even point, which is great. Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Very nice.
Anything, anybody? No? Okay. I'll move we adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. So our next gathering, not official, is that